We put that one in that form. When we go to state our transformations, do we have a vertical stretch? Do we have a horizontal stretch? Do we have any reflections? We only have a vertical translation, which we don't call vertical translation. We call it a vertical displacement. Three units, bless you. Up. Okay. So we're taking a graph that's normally like this. It's a sine graph, so it starts at 0, 0, and it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, centered along the x-axis. And we're taking it, and we're going, shoving it up. But it's still going up, it's going down, it's going up, it's going down, it's going up, it's going down, right? Its mapping, its xy, becomes x, y plus 3. Is my amplitude changing? Your amplitude is your what? In transformations. The vertical stretch. Is the vertical stretch anything but 1 right now? No. So did my amplitude change? No. The graph is still the same height. It's just moved up. Okay. What about the range? Did the range change? Yes. The range changed. I'm going to circle that one. Did the period change? The graph isn't happening any faster or any slower. What's the period based off of?
Horizontal stretch.
Horizontal stretch. If the horizontal stretch is large, it's fast. It's larger of a period, and if the horizontal stretch is between 0 and 1, it's a shorter period. Correct? Did the period change? No. It would still be 2 pi because there's no horizontal stretch. What about the domain? Did it change? What about the x-intercept?
Yes.
They're going to move, and so is the y-intercept. Because you're taking this graph and you're shifting it up. They very well might not even be x. Okay. Now, just so you know, this 3, this d at the end, is actually your midline. Do you see half this word is line and mid? It's the middle line in the graph. If it's a line, you can't just write 3. You have to write y equals 3 because it's a horizontal line that cuts the graph in half. So type into your calculator sine x plus 3. I don't care what mode you're in. And people might say, well, you're typing in. Why do I have to? Because you don't have me typing in your calculator on your test. So we're going to go sine x plus 3. Make sure you close that bracket as well because the plus 3 is at the back. And then I'm going to go to y2. I'm going to put in 3 because that's my y equals 3 is my midline. And I can pick whatever mode I want. Remember, I'm going to go into radians, sure. And then I go zoom trig after that. So it really did change my x-intercepts. I actually have none now, right? Because it took the whole graph and it moved it 3 up. The graph used to be at -1 and 1, and it took it and it just went and shoved it up. We agree? So the reason why I'm making you look at this is next over here it says, how can the range be obtained without the graph? So I went and looked at the graph now. I could get the max and I could get the min, and then I would give the range, correct? I could use my calculator to do that. But what if I give you variables? You can't use your calculator. So how else do we do it?
Take the original range and then add 3 to both numbers.
Yeah, only because the amplitude is 1. What if the amplitude is not 1? How could we do it without using our calculator?
Adjust the original to that and then change as regular. I don't know how to explain it in words.
You're just saying use mapping, basically, to switch it. Yeah. What do you think?
Your midline, you can use the amplitude to see how far it would go up and down.
Yes.
You can set that on both sides of the line.
That's exactly what you do. You take your midline, the middle line, and if you add your amplitude to it, where will it get you to? The maximum. And if you take your middle of your graph, your midline, and you subtract from it your amplitude, what will you get? Your minimum. So actually, you go to get the min, you're going to do your D, your midline, and you're going to subtract the amplitude off of it. Because amplitude is just half the height of the graph, right? So if I find my midline and I subtract my amplitude, I'll get my minimum. So in this case, what is my midline? My D value, which is 3. And I subtract off my amplitude, which is my vertical stretch. And what's my vertical stretch? 1. And where does that get me to? 2. Because if you think about it, here's my midline. It's at y equals 3. And I know the graph goes down 1, and I know the graph goes up 1. So I'm going to get to a maximum of 4 and a minimum of 2, right? But how are you doing that? You're doing d minus amplitude, and your maximum is d plus amplitude. Don't mix them up. So it's 3 plus 1, which is 4. So my range is 2 and 4. Now some people will say, well, I can just always use the calculator. Great, until I give you y equals a sine b x minus c plus 4. And I want the range, and you're like, Your range would be 4 plus a, 4 minus a, because I had a as your amplitude, right? So you need to know your difference. I'm done there. What's the period of this graph? I say in radians. 2 pi. Why?
No horizontal stretch.
There's no horizontal stretch. So we're either going to multiply by 1, or we're going to divide by b, which is 1. So still 2 pi. Make sense? Okay, we'll do one more together, and then I'm going to set you free. So here we have y equals 1 cos 1 x plus 0 minus 2. So the only thing I have is a vertical displacement. What's the horizontal called again? Do you remember?
Horizontal phase shift.
Horizontal phase shift, yeah. Vertical displacement 2 units down. And my mapping would be x, y becomes x comma y minus 2. Did the amplitude change? No, this is following all the same stuff as before. Amplitude didn't change, range did, period doesn't, domain doesn't, but x and y intercepts do. And how do I get my range? Well, my max, or my minimum, I guess I could start with if I want. My minimum is d, which is negative 2, minus my amplitude, which is 1, and I get negative 3. Do you think they'll have amplitude minus d as an oopsie? Yep, they're absolutely going to, because that's common in. You have to not memorize, just think about how it would work. If I take my midline and I add my amplitude, I'll get to my max. If I take my midline and I subtract my amplitude, I'll get to my min. Vice versa doesn't make sense. Say you're stuck on a test. Say you're stuck on the diploma. You have 6 hours. Could you not make an example yourself, like y equals 3 sine 2x, like something the same, plus 7, and try d plus a, d minus a, see if it gets you the max and the min of that graph, a minus d, a plus d, see if it gets you the max and min of the graph. Could you not like compare and be like, oh, it's this way? You have 6 hours. You could literally work your way through this, right? I'm not saying stay for 6, but I'm just saying if you're going to use it, use it wise. All right. So the range, if we do it in set notation this time, would be negative 3 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to negative 1 yer. And I told you that we breathe from the y, and that's why they're the same direction. And the period in radians would be 2 pi. So I'm going to get you to do 3 to 7. I want you to continue doing these two, the periods in radians. And the flip side page, I just want the period in actually whatever it has to be. So this one, the period has to be in radians, because my C is in radians. What about this one? Degrees, because my C is in degrees. What about this one? Radians. So the other side I have to tell you because I didn't give you a C. So you don't know what the angle is. But this one I did. What's the problem with this one here? Sorry. It's not a coefficient of 1 in front of the theta. So make sure you take that half out. Okay? Try them out. Good practice for tomorrow. So when we look at this one, we have y equals 3 sine 1 x plus 0 plus 2. Do you have to show it in this form? No. It usually just helps people realize what's a C, what's a D, what are your A's, and it just kind of helps you out. You don't have to. This one has a vertical stretch. Awesome. Thanks, Ford. Why does it hate me? times than it lets me. Vertical stretch by a factor of 3 above the x-axis. And a vertical displacement, what? Yeah. Two up. If I go to do mapping, it would be x, y. Nothing happens to my x, so my domain would stay the same, all that stuff, right? So x and then 3y plus 2. Did the amplitude stay the same? Did the amplitude stay 1? No, change. Range? Change. Did the period change? Nope, no horizontal stretch. Domain? Nope. X-intercept, y-intercept? Yeah. So what's my range? My range, my minimum is going to be d minus my amplitude, which is -1. And then my maximum is going to be d plus my amplitude, which is 5. And so I get -1 and 5. Or you could have done it in sine rotation, period 2 pi. There's no horizontal stretch. This one, I have y equals -2 cos 1 x plus 0 minus 3. So I have a vertical stretch. I have also a hair on my head. Vertical stretch by a factor of 2 about the x-axis. A reflection in the x-axis. And vertical translation 3 down. And by translation, I mean displacement. It's hard to not mess up that once you've had it drilled into your head as translation. Vertical displacement 3 down. This board does not like me writing quickly. I don't like it. So, we have a dislike relationship. All right, amplitude change. Did the range change? Period? Domain? X and y intercept, yes. The minimum is -3 minus 2, which is -5. It's not minus a minus 2 because the amplitude is always positive, right? The amplitude is the vertical stretch. There's nothing to do with the reflection. The maximum is -3 plus 2, which is -1. So here in set notation, it's y such that -5 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to -1 by here. And the period is 2 pi. Okay, then we're flipping over. Okay, this one, the only thing I don't have is a horizontal stretch. And my axis is in radians. So my domain has to be in radians, or my domain, yes, but my period has to be in radians. So I have a vertical stretch by a factor of 1/3 about the x-axis. I have a reflection in the x-axis. I have a horizontal phase shift. Ooh, I have a reflection too, hey? Oops. I have a reflection. Oh, I wrote it. Oh, sorry about that. Scare myself sometimes. I'm just a little scared. I think I actually time traveled for a second there and came back. I didn't, I'm just stupid, but at least if I time traveled, I'd have to come back and like readjust and be like, hey, I didn't write, oh, I did write reflection. So I'm gonna pretend I time traveled. So I was in another world, time. It was 1930s, it was really dusty, so I came back. Even dusty and wind, you know, just dusty. Just dusty. Okay, cool. Yeah. Dirty 30s. I was in Saskatchewan. It was real dusty. Okay. Horizontal phase shift. I'm from Saskatchewan, Hunter.
Got the Great Depression Saskatchewan.
That was my grandpa. That was a lot I've seen him back then, you know?
Okay.
You guys have time for some time?
More so worse.
Probably. But there was love. Okay. Horizontal phase shift. I had to come up with something good, guys. Pi over 2, right. My grandpa said, actually, fun fact, that I'm going to leave it recorded because it's something that everyone should know. So, we lived like a quarter mile away from our next door neighbors, and so they would borrow their trailer and they would drive to the sandhills because we lived near the sandhills, and they would cut down trees and they would bring back the trees, not the full tree, but like the wood, so that they could burn it. They didn't have heat, right? So that was how they got heat. And the person beside them was actually, he was like injured, so they would take his wagon and horses, and they would go and they'd give him half the wagon, and then they'd keep half, not the actual wagon, the wagon full of wood. Don't want you to think we're cutting up the wagon, okay? Wagon full of wood, and they would keep half, and they would keep half, right? And they were walking home, leaving the horses there, and as they walked home, the wind picked up, and it's the dirty 30s, right? So what he said they did is they had to actually lay on the ground because they could not walk home because they couldn't see. It was that dusty. They were a quarter mile. Like we could see, we would always say how bad the winter weather was based off of looking at our next door neighbors. If we could see his farm, it wasn't bad. And if we couldn't see his farm, we'd be like, wow, it's really bad today. So that's how they would have with their dust. But anyways, it was so dusty they couldn't carry on. You could walk, like you easily walk, right? That's how dusty it was. Gets worse. So they laid down on the ground, and my grandpa said that what they actually had to do is every like few minutes they had to roll because they would get covered in the dirt because it was so dry. And they would be like totally covered, so then they would just roll so that they'd roll out of the sand. And then they'd lay there for a few minutes, and they'd roll again, and then finally it died down and they walked home. Can you imagine? So when you think, oh man, my bottled water doesn't taste nearly as good as it should, because it's Kirkland brand, you have no idea. Dirt, rolling. See? See? Vertical displacement. My grandpa has so many good stories. I just sat there and listened to him all the time. 2 units up. Okay, amplitude, did it change? Yes, good answer. Range? Mrs. Lepp. Thank you. Thank you. Period? No. 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 Horizontal stretch. You're right, child. You're right. If there's no horizontal stretch, it didn't change. Good job, child. Yeah. Domain, did it change? No, the domain is epsilon. Is it? Oh, good answer. X, Y, or 6. Yes. Cool. It's going to move on me what I'm going to write on this. That's what it's going to do. Minimum. If you just give it a little bit of patience, it doesn't move, but I don't have patience. D, 2, plus amplitude a third. What's 2 plus a third? 7/3. Good answer. Okay. Why are we doing, that's a max. I'm not changing. There we go. The min is 2 minus a third. What's 2 minus a third? 5/3. Ooh, someone actually answered. And then I'm being lazy, so I'm writing 5/3.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. 2 pi. Has to be in radians because my C is in radians. And it would be 2 pi divided by B, and B is 1. This one we have to remember to take the half out. Remember, your grandpa lived in the dirty 30s. You just have a board that's not working. It's not that big of a deal. Just scroll back. Give it a bit of time for it to adjust. I realize that this board hates me because I work too quickly. It wants me to work slower. So when we take a half out, that's like doing what? Multiplying by, yay, multiplying by 2. So we are going to make this be 30 degrees. So we get no vertical stretch. We have a horizontal stretch. By a factor of 2. Look at this. Just meshes together. About it's calligraphy.
What's calligraphy?
Calligraphy is like, oh gosh, let's go back to the dirty 30s. There was ink, there was a pen, and then the pen had a calligraphy chip on it, and it makes it all fancy. Like, kind of like that, but you can hold the pen differently. My pen does what this is 2022 calligraphy. But the other one, you would like hold it, and then when you hold it, you'd start off like thin, and then you could make it like thicker, and then, which it's not letting me do because I literally can't move my pen. But when you do calligraphy, you can. I used to do calligraphy because it was fun. Like that, but kind of not. You have like,
It does hurt.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like slanted, so you can make thicker and thinner spots.
It works on the highlighter, actually.
You should buy a calligraphy pen and try it out. There's nothing like a good calligraphy pen. Okay. We have a horizontal phase shift. So you probably know what it is. It's just lost in translation. Is that what it is? It's just a different word.
Yeah.
30 degrees. Right. That makes sense. Okay. Amplitude. Changed? No. Range changed?
No.
No.
French no.
Period changed?
C.
C. Oui. Domain changed?
No.
No. It's XCR. Unless we make it smaller, she don't get bigger or smaller. She XCR. Okay. X-intercept, Y-intercept?
Da.
Da.
That means yes.
Yes.
Really?
That's the only thing I can get in different languages is like da, C.
What language is da? Like all the Slavic languages.
Yeah, like Russian is da. Yeah.
And German, yeah.
Da. Das ist gut. Da. Okay. I have so much languages. I have like 5 words in like so many languages. I'm completely useless. All right. What is range? So the maximum, proving that it didn't change, is 0 plus 1 is 1. The minimum, 0 minus 1 is 1, negative 1. And then we get negative 1, 1. And the period, I have to do 360 divided by the b if I want to. The b is a half, which makes me have 720 degrees. Or I could use the rule of the horizontal stretch, 360 degrees times the horizontal stretch of 2 gets me 720. Same thing. Okay. Fear the board. I fear the board. All right. We'd have a 1, we have a plus 0 at the back. So here we have a horizontal stretch. He said likes that better. Horizontal stretch by a factor of 1/3 about the x-axis. And then we have a horizontal phase shift pi over 2, right. Good enough. That's a disaster. That's fine. Amplitude change?
9.
9. I was like, 9? But yes. No. Okay, range? 9. Period? Oui. Domain? No. X and Y intercept? We. I don't even, he's just going by 9 and 10. Do you get him? Haha.
I said
We're going into
10.
more languages.
Okay, range. That's in no languages but English, and it means the number 10. He's just,
No,
I see you.
Then
He's
he's
not
talking.
talking.
Oh, you're saying 10,
Yeah.
not 10. I thought you said 9 and then
I
10.
said-
I've been hilarious.
I said 10 for period.
Oh.
For this one, I'm actually doing it different line.
Well, I can't keep up. All right. I'm too slow here. So we're at 0 plus 1, 0 minus 1, so we're at negative 1 and 1. The period is 2 pi divided by 3, or 2 pi over 3, or 2 pi times the horizontal stretch to the third, which is 2 pi over 3. Okay? So we have a conclusion. The A represents the what? Well, I waited. I waited an appropriate amount. I'm going to say the absolute value of A. We were technically going for the reflection of the vertical stretch, but I like absolute value of A better, and then it goes for the amplitude and vertical stretch. B represents the, not incorrect, horizontal stretch. Why are you what do you mean?
But 1 over b is the horizontal.
She put it right. Yeah, she put 1 over B, Nathan.
But b doesn't represent.
I think you broke Nathan.
Well, B represents the reciprocal of the
Yeah.
horizontal stretch.
B helps represent the horizontal stretch, which is 1 over B. Is that better, Nathan? Okay. It's not that bad, I promise you. Actually, it is crying. The tears are flowing.
So for 7, something I was meaning.
Wow, we're really going back. Okay.
No, this is something I want to
Yep,
ask
with you.
before I
Got it.
forgot.
Yep.
So, with the relationship between cos and sine, would the graph y equals sine 3 theta be the exact same as that on a graph after the phase shift?
Yeah, if you take the phase shift and shift, yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, everything was a nice.
Printed? Yeah. No, let's not judge. Okay? I'm trying my hardest. The board hates me.
Start alternating.
The period of the graph is found by using B in the formula what? 2 pi over B or 360
Degrees.
cool. Close over B. C represents the what? The sound. True.
Horizontal phase shift.
Horizontal phase shift. The equation must be in the form what? Y equals, we could, yeah, sure. A sine, because we need to have a 1 in front of our x, right? Same thing with cos. If you want to write out both of them, how would you? I don't want to. D represents the what?
Vertical displacement.
And the range can be found by, so we can write it out this way. We can go y such that, and then our minimum is just our d minus our amplitude, which I'll write as absolute value of A, is less than or equal to y, is less than or equal to d, plus the absolute value of A. Y, E, R. In set notation, in interval notation, it's just d minus the absolute value of A, comma d plus.
It's much easier in multiplication.
It is. When it's a sandwiched one. Go for a